In the previous 3 videos, I described the roughest nights and toughest upwind beats I experienced in the 4 seasons of sailing Sea Change, my 1989 Pacific Seacraft, single-handed around the world from 2022 to 2025. Here I describe 10 long calms that we experienced, ranging from a day or a night to 5 days long, sometimes frustrating but often enjoyable in anchorages, or just for something different on a passage. Number 1, Panama Bay. I left Panama on Friday, April 1st, 2022, with a good forecast of 3 days of northerly breeze to take me well out to sea and across the shipping lanes from the west. But I knew I would then run into the doldrums, and indeed days 4 and 5 were a mixture of calms and large squalls and thunderstorms. Then I endured a long day and night with very light headwinds from the southwest. For a while during the day I attempted to sail upwind, and after 2 tacks realized I was making no progress, with the tacks being through 180 degrees. So eventually I gave up and went for a swim, followed by turning on the engine and motoring through the night and the next day. Eventually I picked up a light southerly that finally turned into the southeast trades. Sadly, I got my iPhone wet in Nukuhiva at the end of this 37-day passage and lost all pictures and videos. Number 2, Tahania Atoll. In the previous video on upwind beats, I included my bash from Whakarava Atoll to the southeast atoll of Tahania in the Tuamotus of French Polynesia on Monday, June 20th, 2022. While the subsequent calm was not involved in a passage, I include it here because it was the most perfect calm of my circumnavigation. On the 3rd day in Tahania, I sailed across to the southeast corner and anchored in gentle conditions. I woke up the next morning to the most perfectly flat calm. I was able to see the fan shape marked by the anchor chain on the sandy bottom 15 feet below us. Soon a gentle breeze came up, rippling the surface, creating beautiful light waves on the bottom. Number 3, Tau Atoll. After another week in Whakarava, I sailed north to Tau, and after a quiet night on a mooring alongside these 2 catamarans at the southeast side, with an iconic South Pacific beach, I moved on to a special place, a blind pass called Ansei Mayot, where I joined 8 other boats on moorings on Friday, July 8, 2022. Conditions were calm enough that I could take my dinghy with my little 2-horsepower Yamaha outboard out the pass and back up the shore about a kilometer, and then drift snorkel back to the pass, holding the dinghy painter. It was spectacular, with colorful coral and fish on the left, and the sharp drop-off to the deep blue and schools of deep water fish on the right. I did it several times, and sadly never had such an opportunity again. Number 4, Maupiti. Maupiti is the second to last island in the Society Islands of French Polynesia, on the top left here. On checking out of Bora Bora on the last day of my 90-day visa, I was given a week to depart French Polynesia, the most generous policy I encountered, and decided to visit Maupiti and later Maupiha, the last island, which is actually an atoll. Maupiti is unusual in having its only pass on the southeast corner, making it impassable in strong southeast trades and or large swells. And the swells when I got there on Wednesday, August the 10th, 2022, were big enough to be breaking across the pass. So in the absence of much breeze, seen here at sunset and later moonrise, I chose to lie ahold and drift for the night after ascertaining that the current was taking us southeast and away from the island. A local fishing boat stopped by to check on me, and later on their way back to the island generously tossed me a small tuna. By the next morning we had drifted 6 miles, and when I returned to the pass after a lovely sunrise, I was still too nervous to enter, so drifted again for a couple of hours, but after 2 big catamarans arrived and motored straight in, I screwed up my courage and went for it. My reward was several wonderful days there, including hiking to the top of the island, yielding these spectacular views. Number 5, passing Tonga. With Tonga still closed for COVID, I had to pass the top of the Vavau group, which I would return to the next year, and on Tuesday, August 30th, 2022, I crossed a high-pressure ridge and alternately motored and motorsailed for 24 hours. Tonga is known for the hundreds of female humpback whales that migrate from Antarctica to these warm, sheltered waters to give birth, accompanied by males seeking mating. As I approached the tiny islet of Toku, I saw lots of big white splashes and was at first nervous that there were breakers on rocks, something indicated on my chart near Toku. But eventually I realized they were breaching whales. I cut the engine and had a swim to listen to them, but by the time I took this clip, there were none to be seen. It's Tuesday, the 30th of August. Been on this trip for 5 months now, and this is a tiny islet called Toku, north of the main island of Vavua in Tonga. I presume this is part of Tonga. Sort of looks like an atoll that is filled in, but who knows. Way out in the middle of nowhere, and absolutely full of humpback whales. Don't see any of them right now. That island over there is Whanualei, and I'll head over there next. It's a calm day. We've been motoring most of the day. Just had 2 humpback whales come right by us, and there have been lots of them over here. In fact, these sort of smooth, clear patches are where they have breathed, and they're breaching, tail slapping, fin slapping. And so just now I had a swim. I went under, took the snorkel and goggles, pulled myself down with a ladder, and I could hear them singing. Absolutely fantastic. Number 6, Fiji to New Zealand. As mentioned in my previous video on tough upwind bashes, after almost a week of fighting my way upwind on my long passage from Fiji to New Zealand, on Monday, November 13th, 2023, I ran into a well-forecast ridge of high pressure, which took 21 hours of motoring to cross, one of the longest spans of pure motoring I did. Now it's 8 a.m., Monday the 13th, and last night we reached the edges of the ridge of high pressure that's blocking us from getting down south to the westerlies to go back east to New Zealand, which is over there. I guess we could motor straight there into the little remaining breeze, but prefer to try to motor sail. You can see that I've got the jib off the furler, getting ready to put the genoa up. I'll wait until the sun, which is unbelievably intense, bouncing off the water here, is a little bit higher. Well, later on Monday the 12th of November, we are close to the center of the high pressure. We had breeze from the east most of the morning. Now it's lunchtime. Been motoring for 9 hours now, since 3 a.m. I'm just waiting for the wind to start coming from the west. And then we'll know that we're halfway through. Meanwhile, I'm getting the genoa ready. Here it is, all laid out for a beat up thing. And got it ready to hoist. Once we get westerlies, then it can hoist on this side nice and easy. Meanwhile, seeing all sorts of interesting things in the water here. Let me see if I can zoom in on one of them. They're some sort of jelly, but not certain exactly what they are. There's one there. There's another one, and another one, and another one. Sort of white and orange, sort of, don't want to call it a head, but, and then a translucent body. They go by so quickly, I should slow down. There's one there. Whoops. Yeah, it's some kind of jelly. Anyway. Whoa, and here's a real jellyfish. Look at that. Been seeing some really big ones with that. All right. What fun. It's lovely as long as you have an engine that can keep you going. And so far, our engine is keeping going. Now, we've been motoring for 14 hours now. It's 5 o'clock. And our only hope is this large bank of clouds to the west. I can only hope that is telling us that there's going to be westerlies in it eventually, but the forecast suggests maybe until midnight before that arrives. Ugh. Oh well, it is what it is. Luckily the engine is still working. Number 7, Vanuatu. I had good winds through most of Vanuatu, but near the end, on Thursday, June 13th, 2024, I crossed from Port Sandwich at the southeast corner of the large western island of Malakula, past Ambram Island, where I had earlier attended a festival, to Pentecost Island in the east to witness land diving. There was no wind, so I motored the whole way. As I was not in a hurry, for a while I tried an experiment of motoring at idle, and later went for a swim. An interesting little experiment, I think, here. About halfway to Pentecost Island, and utterly becalmed behind Ambram Island here. And I'm idling the engine at 900 RPM, and we're doing 2.7, 2.8, 2.6, probably averaging 2.7, and the rest of the time I had the engine at 1,600, so an additional 700 RPM, and that got us to 4.7, 4.6, 4.8, so gaining 2 knots with 700 RPM additional. That's pretty interesting. You could just idle along if you were patient enough. Well, I'm going to go for a swim. I put the rope over, nice floaty polypropylene tow rope, and not sure whether 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 knots I can hold on, so I'm going to turn the engine off first and then we'll experiment. Should be fun. When swimming at sea, I always trailed this polypropylene tow rope behind us as a safety line with a red float at the end. Typically, I would swim around the bow first to ensure I was safe, and then drift to the end of the rope and hold on to the red float, gently drifting along with sea change 70 feet away from me. Number 8, Stanley Reef. On my sail up the Queensland coast in the Coral Sea, I had strong southeast trades almost every day, but eventually there was a forecast for high pressure that would last about 24 hours. So I researched nearby reefs in the Great Barrier Reef that I might be able to visit, and settled on Stanley Reef on the basis of this satellite view that indicated a deep channel in from the north with the possibility of an anchorage on sand behind a large coral patch on the south side. On Thursday, July 12, 2024, I took the opportunity to sail across from Cape Upstart in gentle conditions and then motored into the reef, satisfyingly right up to my planned anchorage. Well, it's Friday the 12th. A nice easy sail over here from Cape Upstart, and as promised the winds are moderate, light, flat sea. Sun's just rising and got a beautiful clear sky because it's high pressure, so winds should continue to die through till tomorrow. Our track on my iSailor chart shows how risky it would have been to attempt this based only on it. However, I had loaded the satellite image in my Anchor Alarm app, which allowed me to safely negotiate all the coral bommies. Anchoring took 2 attempts, and overnight we wandered almost 360 degrees around the anchor. The next morning at dawn was almost as calm as hoped, and I could see the anchor and chain 20 feet below us.
Look at this. But not many people get to see this. Absolutely stunning, flat, calm sea in the reef. Wow. Not quite as perfectly flat as Tahania in Tuamotu atolls, but it's pretty close. There's just the slightest breeze making ripples, and then there are you can just even see them, the slightest swells coming through from all directions, hence giving us a little bit of a roll, but yeah, not exactly going to complain about that. Well, that was 12 hours of sleep. I really needed that apparently. So let's see, there it is. There she comes. Our planet keeps spinning. Hello, sunshine. Going to be a gorgeous day. There's some nice snorkeling, and then I'll head out.
I dinghied to the nearby fringing reef and drifted across it at low tide to the deep open water outside the reef for a spectacular snorkel. It was a most remarkable place to be, with no land in sight, yielding this wonderful shot of sea change. Sadly, that was the only part of the Great Barrier Reef I visited, as the trades blew consistently hard for the rest of my Coral Sea cruise. Number 9. Ashmore Reef. I left Darwin determined to get to Ashmore Reef, which is 450 miles due west of Darwin, and with suitable wind would have taken 4 days. But the forecast was for light winds, so I motored for 3 days, hunting forecast trade winds to the north, and after 8 days finally made it to this remarkable place, albeit having to motor sail for the entire last day, hence the straight line to the reef. The Google satellite view of this reef is unfortunately incomplete, but there is a wide opening on the north side, and the only real land is West Island on the left here.
It's the 29th of August, Thursday, and this is the final sunrise on an excessively circuitous and long passage from Darwin to Ashmore Reef. We should get there late afternoon, early evening. Got 50 miles to go. Not much wind right now, so we're motoring, but forecast promises we'll get some wind later. We will see. Look at this. Unbelievable. Just give me a little bit more wind, but that's fine. It'll be nice to be calm like this in Ashmore Reef.
The forecast stayed like this, with essentially no wind under high pressure for my entire stay and departure. Sunsets and sunrises were spectacular here, although it quickly got blazingly hot. In addition to all the bird life on shore, the water was so still and clear I could see a variety of sea life.
Oh, it's 2 o'clock, Saturday the 31st, and it is absolutely dead calm. We are in the middle of a high pressure zone, and look what I've just found. An eagle ray. Just wandering by. There's been 6 or so of them. Here it's just one. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. And of course, my resident population of surgeonfish down here. You can see the bottom 30 feet below quite clearly. Huge white and grey stingray here. Just gorgeous. Oh no, it's some sort of skate ray thing. Wow, look at that. Amazing. That's something you don't see every day. Turtles mating. And there's another male hanging around hoping to get in on the action. He hasn't had any luck yet. I'm on the top of the mast. Sunday, 1st of September. There's the shallow sand, fringing reef in the distance. And then the deep water, 30-40 feet deep, with these 3 boats that the ABF presumably confiscated and now have on moorings as places to put people who they detain or help. And we're looking, that was east. This is south. You can see the fringing reef in the distance there. And then I'll stop and go to the other side of the mast. Now from the other side of the mast there's a sandbar that is posed at low tide. It's about halfway to low tide now. Here's West Island with its long sand spit. That's where all the birds are, and the turtles nesting. And then again the lagoon goes around with the fringing reef. And if I zoom out, wow, the colors are just stunning. And there's our sun blazing back at me from the water. Well, it's Monday the 2nd. I've left Ashmore Reef. There is a precious little sign of the trade winds. It's supposed to come from that direction. You see some light ripples there, but it ain't much. So we are headed on a northwest course, 330 degrees, hoping to intercept the trade winds eventually. Meanwhile, it's a beautiful clear day yet again. One out here, I can see my shadow. Just not a hint of breeze yet. Oh, it's now 2 o'clock. Motored for 7 hours, and towards the end I could feel that with some white caps and the sails starting to pull, that we could turn the engine off finally. What a treat. We're doing 4.5, 5 knots, and we're headed on a broad reach. Eventually, once we get far enough north, we'll go onto a run straight down latitude 10 to Christmas Island. It's exactly 1,000 miles away right now.
Number 10, the Gulf Stream. The penultimate day of my circumnavigation was fast sailing up the east coast of Florida in the Gulf Stream. But despite knowing it would carry me quickly north, I still underestimated it and ended up way early off the coast of Pompano Beach at sunset. So I sailed offshore about 5 miles off Boca Raton. I hove to for the night, but soon the wind died and the banging sails drove me nuts, so I dropped them, turned on the anchor light and went to bed. It was a wonderfully calm night and I woke to a calm morning. Around 10 a.m. I turned on the engine and motored into St. Lucie Inlet and on to Stewart to end my circumnavigation.
Oh, it is Tuesday, the 1st of July, 7 a.m. Sun was up at about 6, but it was behind this thundercloud here. Oh, it's an absolutely gorgeous morning for my final day of sailing sea change. And I spent the night out here. I started way up there, just past Fort Lauderdale. I sailed offshore about 5 miles. I tried to heave to, but the wind died and the swell was just banging the sails around. So I took the sails down and lay ho. I was so tired because I hadn't slept the night before. And I was way early to get to St. Lucie Inlet, with the Gulf Stream carrying us along at 8 to 9 knots yesterday. So I slept from 7 till 1, and I woke up, it was absolutely dead calm out here. Just lovely. Nobody bothered me, no traffic, thunderstorms stayed away. I had a wonderful night. And now, that's Palm Beach over there. I've passed Palm Beach, and this is Jupiter over here. And we're approaching Jupiter Beach Inlet Colony, where my friend Liz Haleman lives, and I hope to stay with her the next few days. And we're going up that way to Port St. Lucie, and I've just put the sail up. We have a very light breeze, but combined with the Gulf Stream, we're doing 4 knots. We actually drifted 30 miles last night in the Gulf Stream. It seems to be endless down here in Florida. This is an absolutely monster storm, but thankfully it is headed north, straight up the Florida Strait. It's halfway between Florida
and the Bahamas, so no problem. But as you can probably hear, we are running the engine because there is essentially zero wind. What wind there is, we're generating. I see way on the horizon there a hint of wind, so maybe we'll have a little breeze, but we're still in the Gulf Stream, so doing 1000 RPM and we're doing 5.6 knots. Yeah, you gotta love it. And there's the skyline down there. And way up ahead, actually I can't show you easily from here, but this over here, that's Jupiter and Jupiter Inlet Beach Colony, where I'll be tonight. Calms are usually frustrating to sailors, and they were at times for me, but were much appreciated in anchorages, and I was able to exploit them occasionally to do things that otherwise would have been impossible, like sailing to Stanley Reef. It did mean that I used the engine more than I would have liked, adding about 1,000 hours over the 4 years, not without some issues along the way to be described in another video, but I managed to keep it going all the way to Florida.